Burundi, unlike earlier on when it was in trouble, this time around everybody saw it coming. We interacted with Burundi as well, that there's a problem coming. Unfortunately, we did not see eye to eye. They thought the problem was not as big. Of course, the problem is there now. We will be attending a summit of the Great Lakes countries who have been invited as one way of coming into the process once again. And the matter, of course, is also discussed by the United Nations. There has been some issues between the two. The AU summit discussed the matter and finally took a decision to set up a high-level committee, and South Africa is included there. That committee must go and meet the leadership in Burundi. Of course, the information so far is that the leadership in Burundi had said, just hold on a little bit, don't come yet, we are still dealing with something. So we are ready. In other words, we are going to be participating in different angles, and we hope that when we get to Burundi, we'll be able to impact with our views on how the Burundi are dealing with the matter. President Museveni is mediating, but unfortunately at the same time is faced with elections. So therefore the focus, in a sense, needed more support. But the AU wanted on its own to really participate, particularly because it had wanted to send a kind of a peace force to help protect the citizens in the first instance, and also help collect illegal guns, etc. But again, the views were not gelling very well. So that's why they thought we needed to go there. And also to talk to all parties, to say they must find a solution that is collective, that could help the country going forward. So we are hopeful that once that contact is made, we can make some progress.
All right. So when you're sitting, and we're talking about the economy, and you said that Europe is struggling, the US is struggling, even China this time around is not going to do as well as done in the past. And I'm just wondering, and this keeps coming up, what about us doing it for ourselves? In other words, inter-Africa trade. If we trade with each other, maybe we won't be so reliant on what's happening beyond our continent. When you sit with your brothers at the AU, is this a conversation that's getting more and more urgency? Because I would think that that's an obvious thing to do, is to stop relying on these global economies and concentrate on the continent.
Yes, that is an ongoing discussion. I think we've moved very far. Perhaps more than a decade ago or 20 years ago, the feeling in Africa was, as we've got about 5 regions, economic regions. Some countries were still connected mentally somehow, and even economically, to the so-called former colonial countries. We've discussed the matter and agreed that we should come together. What has helped to increase that kind of thinking was really the idea that came of NEPAD in Africa. It was an important landmark to say Africans have agreed to work together. That has opened up to say, why can't we do trade together? There is now no longer any resistance. There's a total agreement. Then we asked ourselves a question, if we are to do so, what do we need to do? Because we needed to enable that kind of process. We discovered that the colonial masters did not link the countries. So we then said we needed first and foremost the infrastructure that must link Africa in every respect. And that's why that is one of the biggest kind of activity that is taking place in the continent. We have south-north corridor, east-west. We are connected to allow that process. This last summit, we even discussed the question of the continental passport that must come into existence, so that the question of the borders, because it is well known that if we are traveling from one country to the other in the continent, you have more difficulties at the borders like we have never seen before. So for the goods and people to move, we believe we need to lower or make it softer, the border crossing, to a point that we could have a continental passport, which is being discussed. In fact, some of the AU officials are already carrying that kind of a passport. So the movement towards what we can do together is moving. But also, there is a lot of economic interaction within African countries. The companies from South Africa, for an example, are almost every part of the continent doing business. So it is beginning to be done.
Okay.
And we are saying, whilst there is a global kind of situation, we are a continent that can do business. We have, for an example, agreed that there should be integration of all the 5 regions. 3 are already integrated. There are discussions about the other 2, so that we'll have one kind of free zone continent rather than different regions. So I think we are making good progress on that.